Hello, my name is Jon Svec. Welcome to this All 24 video. In this video, I want to talk about linebacker movement. So this is a really simple progression that I like to do at the start of a season or when I'm working with a new group. And then I like to continue it on for as much time as I have that group to kind of go over it again and reinforce things. And you can really see the players progress with this as time goes on. So this is something that I was taught, a long time ago, like most things, and I've kind of worked with over the years. And if you've coached linebackers, I'm sure you've used something that's very similar to this. But this is just one way that we do it. Maybe you can gain something from this. So movement. So we're going to talk about 3 different types of movement for linebackers when they're playing the run or moving in the box. The way I break it down is, our favorite way of moving as linebackers is a shuffle. To us, that's the best method of movement. Because our shoulders can stay square, we can keep our pads low, and it's really easy for us to change direction if we need to based on what we're seeing. The disadvantage of shuffling is that sometimes it's too slow, so we might need to speed it up. But so we start with the shuffle. This clip starts a little late. You want to start your players in their normal stance. You don't want to roll into this drill. I like to get them started in their proper stance and give a go call or a whistle, and then start them just shuffling straight down the line. Coaching points that I like to use here, we want the pads, whatever your pad level is in your stance, you want to keep that pad level as much as you can as you're moving. So you don't want to be popping up and down as you move. You want to keep that pad level low as you're shuffling sideways laterally in the box. Obviously, you want your shoulders as square as possible. Your eyes are up. Your eyes are looking at what's in front of you. Again, you don't want to hop. You don't want your heels to click together. And as we do this drill, as I started with the young guys, they're usually trying to fly across there. The point here is that shuffling, it's not about speed. You're not shuffling for speed. If you need to be faster, we're going to use a different kind of movement. So shuffling is when, my alignment of the hip of that back allows me to stay in a shuffle because he's moving slowly, or my gap is moving just a little bit, and I'm fast enough in my shuffle to stay with it. That's what we want to talk about here. So I just get them to shuffle across the line. On my go call, I have the next player wait in his stance until the player in front of him is gone. And again, those coaching points I just mentioned, I'm just reinforcing those as we go. Usually I have to slow guys down a little bit, remind them to keep their pads low, shoulders square, eyes up, and not hop and not click their heels together. So that's the shuffle. Very simple kind of movement. I'm sure you've worked on a shuffle with your players. If the shuffle is not fast enough for us to maintain our responsibility, whatever that is, again, an alignment of a hip of a running back or maybe a gap that's moving, then we want to get into what I call a scrape. So when we get into a scrape, we're going to now scrape our foot in front of the other. It's not a karaoke, right? We're not going front and back. We're always scraping in front. Key points here is that the pads, if we're being realists, the pads are going to rise a little bit and the shoulders are going to turn a little bit, but we want to minimize those things. We don't want to be too high and we don't want to turn our shoulders too much. We like the scrape because it's faster than a shuffle, but I can still deal with a cutback. I can still change directions because I'm not fully turned and running. So this is something in between a shuffle and a full turn and run. We call it a scrape. So again, the shoulders are going to turn a little bit. Again, let's be realistic about it. The shoulders are going to turn a little bit, the pads are going to raise a little bit, but we want to minimize those movements. Again, the eyes want to be up, looking at our target. Now you can see it's almost a running style with the arms. It's almost a running motion. And again, those toes are pointed in the direction now that this player is running. So again, a scrape in between a shuffle and a run. So the way I set up this drill is on my go, the players are shuffling, and then I give them a second go call and they turn that into a scrape. So it becomes a 2-go drill or 2 whistles. So I get them to go. I try to stagger my timing so that they're reacting to my voice or the whistle and it's not a pattern that's rhythmic. And we just go from a scrape to from a shuffle to a scrape on my go call. Okay, we'll see the next rep here. Okay, starting a good stance. Okay, on my go, we'll get into a shuffle. Again, I'll keep them shuffling. I don't want them to anticipate my second go call. I want them shuffling for a good little bit. And then on that second go, they're going to get into that scrape. Now the foot's going to cross over. Okay, it's a faster movement, and they're going to get into their scrape. The third progression to this is I call it a shoot or a turn and run. So now that back, it's a quick toss. That back is beelining towards the sidelines, and neither a shuffle nor a scrape will keep you in your responsibility. You have to just turn and run. You have to go. Obviously, this is the fastest of all the movements and the toughest to cut back. So once we've committed to that shoot, if the running back decides to cut back at that point, you know, it's going to be a little tougher for us to change direction. So now it's a 3-go drill or a 3-whistle drill. So the first go is a shuffle, then I get them into their scrape, and then they shoot. And I find that with this, they can really feel the difference of those 3 movements. Okay, just going on my voice from a shuffle to a scrape to a shoot. When they're going to go from that scrape to the shoot, you want to throw your elbow back, again, fully turn, and now you're accelerating at top speed and just running to get back on that running back's hip, or just keep your responsibility, whatever that is. Now, once we've got that drill kind of ingrained, I add in a running back, you know, another linebacker who plays as the show guy. We're just going to go through reacting to his movement. So I start the linebacker on the back hip. So that's his leverage on this, is the back hip of the running back. And I get the running back to just exaggerate and vary his speed. So he wants to really speed up and then really slow down in an exaggerated way just for the purpose of the drill. So you're going to see here a pretty good rep where if that back is going slow enough that the shuffle keeps me there, I'll stay on the shuffle for the whole drill if I can, right? If that back's just going slowly and I can stay on that hip comfortably with the shuffle, I'll stay on the shuffle. Now when that back speeds up, now I'm going to scrape my feet. And you just see this drill. It's good to get them going back and forth from a scrape to a shuffle, you know, from a shuffle to a scrape, and just going back and forth in those movements, always staying on the back hip. His eyes are locked on the back hip of that running back. And then you want to tell your players what the finish is of the drill. Here we're obviously in the gym. You can finish with a form tackle or a whiz-by or whatever you want to finish the drill with. And early in the season is usually the only times we do that in a straight line, because as linebackers, we usually want to be doing these movements going downhill. So very early on, once we have that system down and we're comfortable with doing that in a straight line just to train our bodies, now we're going to come away from the ball carrier, do that same drill, but now you can see our linebacker's coming downhill as he stays on that back hip. So he's shuffling when he can. When that back speeds up, he's going to speed up in his scrape, and now everything's happening downhill. We want to play downhill as linebackers in the run game. And again, you want to finish with some kind of whiz. You always want to finish off that back hip if that's your alignment in this particular drill. So really simply, shuffle, scrape, shoot. Again, emphasizing always starting in a good stance, whatever your preferred stance is for your linebackers. That shuffle, you know, doesn't need to be fast. You want it to be precise with good pad level, the ability to handle a cutback. The scrape's a little faster, and then you shoot when that's your last line of last resource. So that's just a really simple primer on some linebacker movement. Again, I'm sure you do something similar. More videos like this at all24.ca.